Alcohol is one of the most destructive substances in human history. Every single year, it claims more lives than wars, terrorism, homicides, and traffic accidents combined. It injures tens of millions, fuels violence and crime, and traps hundreds of millions in lifelong disease. If someone tried to invent it today, it would almost certainly be banned before the first glass could be poured. Sounds extreme? Wait until you hear what's coming next. And yet, more than 2 billion people drink it. Most of us can't picture a wedding without champagne, a summer barbecue without beer, or a cozy winter evening without a glass of wine. We drink when we're celebrating and when we're grieving, when we're stressed and when we're relaxed, at home or in public. Alcohol is everywhere, in our rituals, our culture, our sense of connection. It's a paradox. Why do we cling so tightly to something that can harm us so profoundly? Let's take a closer look, starting with what happens the moment it hits your lips. Alcohol is not just a social tradition, it's a chemical weapon, literally. Yeast produces ethanol during fermentation as a way to kill off competing microorganisms. What we call alcohol is simply that poison, diluted in water and flavored with fruits, grains, herbs, or caramel. And here's where it gets personal. When you take your first sip, sextillions of alcohol molecules flood into your stomach and small intestine. From there, they enter your bloodstream and head for your liver, your body's detox center, and onto every organ, including your brain. But there's a catch. Your liver can only process the alcohol in about 1 sip of beer every 5 minutes. Anything beyond that starts to accumulate in your system. The more you drink, the faster this overload happens, and the more your brain and body are swamped. Once alcohol molecules breach your brain's defenses, chaos begins. They interfere with neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that control your thoughts, emotions, and movements. And here's where the trouble really starts. Scientists are still unraveling the exact details, but we know alcohol slows neuron firing, scrambles communication between brain cells, and dulls the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and self-control. The effects are seductive. Your tension eases, stress melts away, and your fears shrink. You feel more open, more willing to talk or act without overthinking. Alcohol also triggers the release of endorphins, the same feel-good chemicals that flood your brain when you laugh, sing, or dance with others. This is where alcohol works its social magic. With each drink, the invisible barriers of insecurity start to fade. Conversations flow, strangers feel like friends, smiles linger longer. You feel lighter not just in your own skin, but in the presence of others. Alcohol occupies a unique space in human interaction, a mix of mild relaxation, subtle courage, and enhanced connection. But here's the part we often forget. Every shortcut comes with a toll. For a while, it feels like a shortcut to the closeness we crave. The awkwardness of meeting someone new dissolves. The hesitations that keep us guarded fade away. But there's a price for that magic. And the more often we drink, the steeper it gets. For billions of people, alcohol begins as an occasional indulgence, a drink at the weekend, a toast at a celebration. But over time, these moments become routine. Every Friday, then every other day, then most nights. Here's why that's dangerous. Because alcohol's damage accumulates slowly. It can take years to notice the cost. Ethanol is both water and fat soluble, which means it can penetrate almost every cell in your body. Your liver breaks it down into acetaldehyde, a compound even more toxic than alcohol itself. This substance damages tissues, mutates DNA, and accelerates cell death. In the brain, repeated exposure shrinks neurons and severs their connections, making it harder for different regions to communicate. Over the years, this translates to fading memory, slower thinking, and an increased risk of dementia. For young people, the risk is even greater. The brain doesn't fully mature until your mid-20s, so drinking heavily before that is like carving cracks into wet cement before it has set. Binge drinking in late adolescence can impair memory and learning for a year or more, and it's one of the strongest risk factors for developing dementia early in life. Beyond the brain, alcohol is a carcinogen, causing at least 8 types of cancer, from the mouth to the bowel, as well as breast cancer in women. Think you're safe because you only have a drink or two? You might want to rethink that. These risks begin at surprisingly low levels, less than a single glass of wine a day. Globally, alcohol is responsible for about 740,000 new cancer cases and 400,000 cancer deaths each year. Your liver also takes a beating. Alcohol disrupts fat metabolism, leading to fatty liver disease, which often has no symptoms until the damage is severe. Over years, this can progress to hepatitis, fibrosis, and finally cirrhosis, an irreversible condition where scar tissue replaces healthy liver cells. About 600,000 people die each year from alcohol-destroyed livers. Then there's the heart. Drinking raises blood pressure, weakens heart muscles, and increases the risk of stroke and blood clots. These cardiovascular problems account for another 500,000 deaths annually. And while we often focus on what alcohol does inside the body, it changes the outside too. It dehydrates skin, accelerates aging, and is loaded with calories. Add in its tendency to trigger overeating, and it becomes a significant driver of weight gain and obesity. Alcohol doesn't just harm the drinker. It's one of the leading causes of accidents, violence, and death for people who didn't even choose to drink. Each year, alcohol-fueled accidents kill around 500,000 people. In traffic crashes alone, 300,000 die, and more than half of them are sober victims hit by someone who wasn't. Alcohol also fuels aggression. About half of all violent crimes and sexual assaults are committed by people under the influence. That's roughly 100,000 alcohol-related murders and assaults resulting in death every year, the equivalent of losing an entire small city annually to drunken violence. The injury toll is even higher. In England alone, 500,000 adults are injured in alcohol-related accidents every year, and another 800,000 are hurt in violent attacks by drunk offenders. On a global scale, tens of millions are injured by someone else's drinking. Some of the most tragic victims are unborn. About 600,000 babies each year are born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, leading to lifelong disabilities. When alcohol use begins to cause real harm to you or others, you've crossed into alcoholism. Roughly 400 million people, about 1 in 14 adults worldwide, live in this territory. Here's the tricky part. You can cross that line without even realizing it. Half of all alcoholics may show no obvious signs, no public outbursts, no missed responsibilities. They might be successful professionals or attentive parents, but they drink heavily enough to be damaging their bodies, minds, and relationships without realizing it. This is part of alcohol's danger. Its deep cultural acceptance hides its true impact. Why did we ever embrace such a dangerous substance? Partly because it solves one of humanity's oldest problems, connecting with each other. Human relationships are messy. We crave closeness, yet we fear rejection. We overthink our words, worry about how we're perceived, and struggle to let our guard down. Alcohol offers a shortcut, an instant way to soften those edges. Studies confirm what humans have sensed for millennia. Moderate drinking can help strangers bond, deepen friendships, and increase trust. For thousands of years, this has been part of the reason alcohol became woven into rituals, feasts, and gatherings. But change is happening. Young people, especially Gen Z, are drinking far less than previous generations. In the US, the number of 18-year-olds who've tried alcohol has dropped by a quarter in recent decades. Binge drinking among teenagers has halved. Even in countries like France and Germany, where alcohol is part of cultural identity, consumption is falling. This has clear benefits: fewer accidents, fewer hospitalizations, fewer lives derailed. But something else is happening too. Social habits are shifting. The percentage of young people who see their friends daily has dropped by half. Party attendance is down 30%. Dating and casual relationships have declined. Meanwhile, loneliness and mental health struggles have surged. There are many reasons for this, from social media to economic pressures to global events, but the decline in alcohol use may be part of the picture. Alcohol, for all its dangers, was a powerful social lubricant. Without it, many are still searching for alternatives to bridge the gap between isolation and connection. The West may be moving toward a future with less alcohol. This could be a turning point, a chance to build ways of connecting that don't rely on a toxic chemical. But here's the real challenge. Breaking free from alcohol's grip isn't just a personal decision, it's a cultural shift. For thousands of years, it has been woven into our celebrations, our sorrows, and our sense of belonging. Changing that means reimagining how we connect, how we celebrate, and how we face life together. It's not about replacing alcohol with another crutch. It's about building new traditions that bring us closer without costing our health or our future. The challenge is enormous, but so is the opportunity. The choice is ours, and the clock is ticking. If you've watched until this point, you now know both the seductive side and the devastating cost of alcohol. The next time you see a drink in your hand, or in someone else's, you'll know the story it carries. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone you care about. Hit like so more people find it, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our lives. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you think society can truly replace alcohol with something better? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading every single one.